It's not very often that a social media person gets to sit in front of a room this large, so give me a wave and I'll see how we go. 1, 2, 3. So thank you very much. I've had a great morning this morning. Firstly, thanks very much to the SoMeT team and Destination Sunshine Coast for working together, bringing the conference to the Sunshine Coast. It's great to sit in a room with like-minded people and to be able to talk about digital marketing in the specific context of tourism, which is what we do on a daily basis. So enjoy the conversation over the next couple of days. And William, I promise I'm not trying to steal your wrap-up job at the end of the day, but already some of the things that I'm starting to hear that really resonate and come through to my presentation is all about how the connected visitor is coming about. So Sherelle, just before I do that actually, Sherelle Van Dam, what we do as Aussies, as we said, was you've got Damo. The other way that we go sometimes is we go with the whole Van Dam, go off in a different angle. So I'd like to propose maybe Jean-Claude Van Dam as a potential nickname. But the thing that I really loved about your presentation this morning was the whole idea of unlocking a destination's great stories, and then that those stories aren't necessarily being told by us. I saw that great visualization of where the photos of Amsterdam were being taken, and that's not necessarily the stories that maybe Amsterdam themselves would like to promote, but they're certainly the stories that the visitors to that destination are promoting. The other thing that I loved hearing was all about the Generation C, Generation Connected, because that's certainly something that we're seeing now, is that we need to connect with the visitors right the way through the whole holiday planning cycle. And the third point, which Susie made, which was all about the value of content. I believe very strongly that as DMOs, we need to find a way of valuing so much of the digital work that we're now doing, because that is one of the only ways that we will be able to encourage our industry and our organisations to put more money behind digital activity. So, as I said, I'm Chris Chambers. I work at Tourism and Events Queensland. Our main role, obviously, is bringing visitors to Queensland's destinations, and we do that through destinations and events. I think I've got one of the best jobs in the world. As you can see up on the screen from a few of my Insta photos, I get out and about to some great events and some great destinations, and we need to become strong advocates of our destinations as well. So what I'd like to cover today is really 3 key areas. One is the This is Queensland application, which is the first step of TEQ's passage into being more of a connected destination. Thanks, Linz. Also, how Queensland is using social media to connect with visitors to our destination and potential visitors to Queensland. And I'm sure throughout the presentation you'll see a little bit of Queensland as we show off some of our great destinations. And this is the key message that I really want to promote and talk about today, that I believe that our role as DMOs has extended to beyond just connecting with someone to tell them about our destination. We need to be looking across all 5 stages of the holiday planning cycle so that we extend the connection between the visitor and the place further than just the planning component. And Sherelle started talking about this earlier. There's 5 key stages of the holiday planning process that we firmly believe in. As Sherelle mentioned, booking is kind of a dirty word for some DMOs, and we've spent a lot of time in the past working in the dreaming and the planning stages, but not really too much in the experiencing or the sharing component. So what TEQ and most other DMOs, I believe, should be looking at doing is how do we start to connect with someone to talk to them about the destination beyond just our website, which is talking about the destination and the experiences and events that they can attend, but also what are the other inside treats and the user-generated content, and also using digital technologies to connect with the consumer once they're in the destination. All with the view, of course, of getting them to spend more money in the destination. The This is Queensland app was launched in January this year, and the thinking behind this was that we've invested significantly over the past 10 years in our own website, so queensland.com, but that we've obviously seen visitation to our site and the use of mobiles growing seriously over the last 3 years. Visitation to our website on mobile devices is about 35% of visitation, and we've got another 12 or so % that happens on tablets. So that's a huge portion of the 350 or 400,000 people a month who come through our site, who we need to make sure we're delivering a very unique and different type of experience to. We also know that international visitors to Queensland's destinations want to find Wi-Fi and internet whilst they're here. We have seen some great research that's been done by Tourism Australia in the past that shows that of their Facebook connection base, they did a survey, and 57% of the respondents to that survey indicated that content that they had seen shared socially by their friends and families had influenced their destination selection. So we need to be looking at how are we connecting with visitors whilst they're in destination to get them sharing their information with their family and friends to then influence them to come to that destination. We also have seen innovation by companies like Hertz, who, when you rent a car with them, now allow you to not only hire a GPS and a baby seat, but also a Wi-Fi hub. We've seen companies like New York stripping out a lot of the payphone booths in New York City and turning them into Wi-Fi hotspots. So the growth of internet connectivity within the destination is really growing, and we see it as our role to connect visitors with that Wi-Fi. And I know that Paul Barron from Tourism Victoria is going to speak a little bit about that later on. The app's got your regular bog standard features. You can fire up a map and see what tourism businesses are nearby. You can see a map to find directions to restaurants and whatever. You can favourite content within the app, and that will save that to a list that you can then use as a bit of a planning tool. You can look at all of the content from the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse in there. So there's about 5,000 or 6,000 records of information about things to see and do across the state contained within the app. But some of the new things that we haven't seen done by any other destinations is adding content straight from users into the app and straight from our destinations. So the What's Trending or What's Hot section is a collection of content being published by the regional tourism organisations or on different hashtags. The idea there is that we can show visitors arriving in our destination what's happening right now straight from one of our properties, which is the stories being told by visitors to our destination. Where we started to get a little bit trickier, though, was in the use of some location-based services. We're using two different styles of location-based services. One is GPS fences or geofences, and they work by someone who has our app installed on their device. When they come within one of these geofences, the device will push a notification. Now, the notifications are designed to feature different messages. The main one is almost like a welcome to region. And those messages will be along the lines of, welcome to the Sunshine Coast. Don't forget to share your experiences using hashtag This Is Queensland and hashtag Visit Sunshine Coast. The idea there is not just to encourage the visitor to share their content with the right hashtags, but then to enable us to be able to see that content so we can share the user's stories or the visitor's stories out through our platforms to show what a destination's perspective is from the visitor. The other great new tool that we're using is these little things called beacons. Now, I don't know if you've heard much about these, but they operate on a really small space. So they would probably be able to send a message out over this space itself. So no more than about 100 metres or so. And they work on Bluetooth. The beauty of both the GPS and the Bluetooth system is that you don't need an internet connection for the device to pick up messages and then publish those messages. The beacons are used much more near field, so we can use those to let someone walking past a visitor information centre know that there's a visitor information centre nearby and that Vic has free Wi-Fi. So the guest can come in and use the Wi-Fi and find out the services or the attractions or things that are nearby. Oh, I did promise a few little show-offs. This is a lovely place up in the Whitsundays called Qualia. Great little spot to go and visit. This is just a couple of the different uses of how people would be able to use the application. This is a geofence. As I mentioned, I operate on a GPS, so a huge range, around about up to 20 kilometres, in some cases 50 kilometres, and it's basically just done by drawing a virtual ring on a map. And when someone with an iPhone or an Android device who has our app installed comes within that device, we can push this type of notification. And you can see that what happens here is that they'll get the notification, they can swipe without internet connection and go through to whatever content was last stored on the device when there was an internet connection, or if there is an internet connection, it will pull through an event that's happening in the immediate future, some content from the regional tourism organisation, some information from the TEQ blog or our YouTube channel. So we're really trying to use this as a way of showing visitors to the location what's happening right now, what's trending. Another thing that we've been able to do through the application is that we can start to push different messages. So here's an example. Someone may be travelling through northern Queensland, they're passing through Shebangabang, and that's key cassowary location. If someone swipes the app, what we'll be able to do is to prompt that visitor to go through to the Queensland YouTube channel, where we've got a great video all about cassowaries and what it is that the cassowary, why cassowary is so famous. So what we're trying to do here is use our content assets that exist and put that in context of a visitor being in the destination so that they can get a greater understanding, I guess, about the context of what's nearby. We're also looking to use them at events. So I'm a huge golfer and a big golf fan, and what we're able to do with this app is now promote different areas around an event. So, for example, at a golf tournament, we may have different beacons placed at each of the different tee boxes, and as someone goes to that area, they'll get a message pushed to them, which might be a tip from a professional golfer about where to stand to see a good shot being played, or a bit of an update about the tee box or something like that in the day. The context of the content is what's becoming really important. How do we show visitors to our destinations what's nearby and what content is being published by others? One of the other things that we've started doing with this app is we're allowing people to subscribe to the TEQ email program, but provide us with more information about where and when they're likely to go on holidays. So someone could subscribe, let us know that they're coming to the Sunshine Coast in the middle of August, give us their exact date, so on the 14th of August, and then they leave on the 21st of August. And that person will receive an email from TEQ a week before they arrive at the destination, and that email will have content or drivers to content that is specific to the Sunshine Coast. So it might be through to, say, the accommodation offers part of our site, or to a list of upcoming events, or information about where to go to look for the videos about the destination. So again, we are trying to position ourselves as the destination content expert, but using other people's content to tell that story and put it in context of the individual. Some of the results to date, since January, we've had nearly 20,000 downloads. What we have seen is that we are getting quite good repeat usage of the application. So you can see, as of yesterday, about 34,000 sessions. It's really interesting to look at do a comparison, though, between the engagement rates between iPhone users and Android users. We're seeing Android users engage a whole lot more with the content, and they're spending around about double the amount of time within the application than iPhone users. One of the other learnings that we've had is that the beacon technology is advancing very quickly. I've sort of likened it to the old floppy disk. You used to store a lot of content on a floppy disk and carry that around with you, whereas now a USB stick or music can be listened straight off a computer. So we're not thinking that a destination should invest heavily in their own beacon network, but rather find ways to integrate beacon technology within your application, or also have a look at what Facebook are doing, who are apparently rolling out beacon networks through the US and the UK, which will obviously have a greater impact because there's far more people who will have the Facebook application than who have the Queensland application. Oh, sorry, Paul, old slide. A little bit of information about how TEQ uses social. The This Is Queensland hashtag has become a key part of what we're doing now. I was very interested in the comments about Amsterdam and not using a hashtag. because at TEQ it's been great to watch over the last 12 or 18 months or so the enthusiasm, I guess you could say, around the This Is Queensland hashtag and how we start to incorporate that into a lot of our offline collateral. So at different events now, you'll see the hashtag, and we're becoming very active and adept at using the hashtag. So what I thought I might do is just spend a little bit of time talking about some of the examples of how we at Queensland are using the hashtag to inspire others to share their content with us and with other visitors so that we can see more of the visitors' stories being told. The key message here is that we don't need to do all of the heavy lifting ourselves. Where we need to position ourselves is more of an advocate for visitors to our destination to actually use the This Is Queensland hashtag. Find ways to prompt the visitor to use that content. It might be through the notifications on the app. I've seen some great examples of airport signage where the destination's hashtag is right there front and centre as you're coming out to collect your bags, or also in physical signage in other places across the destination. A lot of the content that we're now sharing and publishing through our channels is captured from users who are submitting their stories about the destination. And this is what we've seen. We're currently seeing, on average, around about 10% increase month on month in the number of photos that have been submitted using the This Is Queensland hashtag. And you can see on the right-hand side there, as of late last week, over 270,000 or so photos that have been shared using the This Is Queensland hashtag. Now that's not as significant as some other destinations globally, but what that does provide us is with a great content bank that we can use to tell the story about Queensland's destinations. And we're doing that through a whole bunch of different means. Someone mentioned it earlier, that need to listen in through tools that are available. And we do that quite a lot at TEQ. We listen in, we engage with audiences, but we don't do that in a creepy, stalkerish kind of way. We looked at ways of engaging with visitors, and Emma Judd's going to talk a little bit later on in the conference about how TEQ uses events to engage with event attendees and create stronger advocates. We also find unique ways of using what's happening across the state to engage. Now, I've lived in Queensland for a very long time. This is a sign that is positioned at the border of Queensland and New South Wales. And last week, out in southern Queensland country, it snowed. And it snowed for the first time since 1984. And I know that because I remember my mum and dad packing us up in the car and going out to seeing the snow in Queensland back in '84. So what we've done this time is we've been able to look at what's happening across Instagram and Twitter, and the team have been able to collate content that is being published by residents and visitors in that destination to their own social media channels that we've been able to then pick up and publish that back out through our channels. The engagement rates that we were able to get on that was fantastic. And we were able to use our media contacts to work with the likes of BuzzFeed and some other websites to have them publish stories that was featuring the content that we were sharing. That really helped build a story about the destination. Southern Queensland country in particular, that's important because we talk about the different seasons in that region. It also allowed us to identify a new business opportunity, and Paul from Tourism Victoria, you'll be glad to know we're looking at opening up some ski fields out in the southern Queensland country just in time for next season. It's also a good opportunity for us destination brands to show our personality. One of the things that TEQ talk about for the Queensland brand is that we should be cheeky and have a bit of fun promoting the destination. So what we did was we used some of this content and the team in the social part of the digital marketing team tweeted out a couple of photos like this and asked our friends that are in ski destinations what this white stuff was and what we should do with it. And we got some responses back from Victoria and Tasmania and also some of the other international ski locations. So that content also then helps to build up that personality, that style that we really want people to know that when they come to Queensland, it's a warm, welcoming type of thing, despite all of the snow that we get. I'm sure many destinations do this, but what I'm going to do now is just a couple of practical ways that the team use the content, because not everyone uses the content, I'm sure, as efficiently as they can. And the digital team, we talk about content efficiencies. Facebook is being talked about already as the reduction of organic reach. We have very definitely moved towards using Facebook as a media channel. We look at Twitter and Instagram more as a community channel, but Facebook for us is a very effective media play. How do we use the targeting and the segmentation type of information that's available in Facebook to get content to the right audience at the right time? A good example of how you can do that is what we did last year in the lead up to the cricket test match between Australia and India in Brisbane. So we were able to take content that we knew resonated with the Indian market, publish that to Facebook, directly targeting the Indian market, but then work with our media agencies to extend the reach of that content to Indian people who like cricket or like Tourism Australia on Facebook. So Facebook for us is definitely a media play. I completely concur with the thinking there. One of our most engaging bits of content that we actually don't put a lot of paid media behind is our Friday fan photos. Obviously, taking content that's been shared socially and then for the destination to hero that content, if you like, is one way that we get great engagement from our audiences. So we get people who we're sharing their content with, really loving the fact that Queensland is sharing their content. So these fan photo style albums get a lot of great engagement without paid media behind them. We hero content in a whole bunch of different ways. So we've regularly used hero shots as our cover image on Facebook. We use it through Twitter and Instagram, and we're really focused on how do we use the community's insights into the destinations to tell more story about what it is that we're doing. It's great to see Lauren here, and I'm sure she'll cover this a whole lot more than I now, but digital influencers for us are a really interesting part of what's happening in the destination marketing situation. We love working with digital influencers, but what we're not so keen on is that we see digital influencers working with a bunch of travel brands. From this week, it might be in Queensland, the week after Dubai, the next week it's New Zealand, the week after that it might be New South Wales. So we love working with digital influencers, but one of the things that we're very focused on is building our own communities and working with those influencers to make sure that we've got the right permissions and the right capability to be able to take those influencers' content and share that out through our own audiences. Those influencers, their audiences are great. They will be niche to a particular topic, they will be highly engaged, but digital influencers for us are also a great way to develop content efficiencies that save us creating our own content and our own styled content. Make sure that when you're working with digital influencers, they're well-versed on hashtags. Now, that's probably very low-tech and not very strategic, but we do see other destinations not doing that well. So we make sure that that's in our itineraries, that when we meet the influencers, we reinforce those. And as I said, engage with these influencers with the dual purpose. It's all about, we want influencers who are going to be able to create content from our destinations that connects with their audiences, but we also want to take that content and share that out through our channels. One of the classic examples of this is we have a program called Room 753, and I'll share a video about that later on that shows I'll share it on Twitter later on, that tells a story about that program. But one of our influencers was Korean. And the style of content that they created, we could see a great match between the content that they were creating and the outback of Queensland. Now, there's not a lot of Koreans that go to the outback of Queensland, and there was a little bit of reluctance from the destination team to take that content or take that influencer and put them in the outback. But the results were amazing, and that influencer has now returned to the outback on their own a couple of times, because the content that they produced was in line with the destination story, and we were able to take the beautiful content that that influencer had created and actually target it to the consumer who we know wants to go to the outback. think one of our most powerful advocates are the people that work for the organisations that we work for. If we can harness their passion and enthusiasm for the destination. So I've worked for Tourism and Events Queensland in the digital marketing team for 13 years or so, and I've worked in a number of other roles prior to that. And one of the great things that I enjoy is being able to get out and about in the state and take photos and share that content. We need to enable other parts of our organisation to understand what Instagram is, what Twitter is, and inspire them and encourage them to be out there creating content and sharing that content. These guys are going to become, over time, your strongest advocates for what it is that you're trying to do. So organise training sessions, feature their content. This content here was taken by, I've got no idea where this username came from, but Jane Webster has the username Piggy Stingray, and Jane has been a great, she's really jumped on social media over the last 12 months or so, and she works in our FAMIL team. So she's always out and about the state, getting to visit different destinations, and she regularly captures content. I think the last thing, the last thing that I want to talk about is this concept of taking a road less travelled and connecting with visitors in a new way and inspiring them to learn about our destination. The idea that was presented earlier about how do we connect with visitors and value a visit to a virtual asset is really interesting to me, and I hope there's a bit of conversation about that over the next couple of days, because so much of our work actually is not necessarily going to drive a direct visitor that we can show, but if we can value the work that we're doing in the social media space and in the digital space, we can demonstrate how likely we are to influence others to visit that destination. Some recent initiatives that I've seen in this space, one is the remote control tourist. Now, I don't know if you saw that campaign, but it was basically whacking a GoPro or a camera system on people and walking them around Melbourne, and for people through was it Google or something like that to be able to talk with the remote control tourist and direct them to go down the lanes or to a certain cupcake shop or something like that. That type of thing is really engaging. It's not mediocre, and it is going to get the attention of people who are likely to visit your destination. One similar project that we did was the Reef Live, where we broadcast through YouTube over 11 and a bit hours. And we had divers on the reef, and people were able to ask questions through Twitter and through Google Plus and YouTube about the marine life that was around the diver. We also had experts in James Cook University and at Reef HQ in Townsville, and they what happened there was we had about 33 or 34,000 people watch, on average, 10 minutes of content each. So that was a huge production, but it allowed us to really tell the story about the Great Barrier Reef in a way that hadn't been done previously. So that's something that I also want people to have a bit of a think about, is how do we use these new platforms and these new tools to engage with the audience virtually? And then how do we, I think as DMOs, how is it that we position a valuation, if you like, on the work that we're doing digitally and socially, because that is going to become a key barrier, or already is a key barrier for further investment and further engagement. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the time to talk about the work that TEQ is doing, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question about working with digital influencers. Obviously, you've worked with them for quite a while, and that's why you know how to actually work with them, vetting them. What would you say to anyone who hasn't worked with digital influence? What are the first things they need to do? How do they start with that?
I think one of the key things that we've noticed is that you really need to find an influencer who's a great match for your brand, who's a great match for the story that you want to tell. The second thing that we've learned is that you need to vet. And Kaz and Craig will probably talk about this, and Lauren could as well. There's lots of people, lots of influencers out there who are sprouting the value or the size of their audience. For a destination, it should not be anything about the size of the audience. It should be about the influence that an individual has to tell the story of that destination. And we've worked with Destination Think on a number of programs now, and we've got around about 8 or 9 different criteria or criteria that we use to determine the suitability of an influencer to work with. And the size of an influencer's audience is one part of that, but there's many other parts that you need to think about.
So would you say that it would be good to work with an agency because they obviously would know which influencers are out there, or what would be steps to take to sort of gauge? Do you contact colleagues in the DMO sphere, or how does that work?
Actually, we haven't previously contacted other colleagues in other DMOs, but one of the things that we do know is that basically there's 2 different ways. One, yes, you can work with someone like Think and work with them to develop a set of criteria to identify influencers, but also have a look at your hashtag, have a look at your channels and who's engaging with you most frequently. So for us, we can look at Visit Sunshine Coast and see which residents are producing great content about the destination and actually engage with them directly. So working with an agency is one way, but there's other ways that you can identify these influencers and work directly with them. And certainly our experience in working with digital influencers or content creators has been very positive.
Perfect. One of the other things you spoke about is the Queensland app. I have it on my phone, so
excellent, thank you.
Used it, so that's great. I always say it's kind of easy to create an app, but it's very difficult to create a very good app. What are some of the challenges you've had to overcome to create this app? One
of the main challenges was how are we going to continue to drive usage of the app? And I probably wouldn't recommend that most destinations would need an application. However, Queensland is a huge constituency, 1 million square kilometres, and there are vast tracts of our state where you cannot get an internet connection. So for us, it's important for visitors who are in those locations, like the main street of Early Beach or in the outback, who can't get an internet connection, that we are providing them still with a way of finding out information about what's nearby. And most of the functionality in the app has been built to work offline as well as when there is an internet connection.
And do you already see a lot of people using the push notification functionality? Yeah,
so it's been one of our really interesting learning experiences. We've got, now there would be around about 80 beacons that are located across the state. That's about half of the rollout that we have planned. The beacons are currently located predominantly in airports, train stations, visitor information centres and national parks. And it's a great source of data for us. We can see which beacons are being hit most frequently by users of the app. It probably doesn't surprise anyone that most of the visitation to the apps, to the beacons, are in airports, because obviously that's where the greatest foot traffic is. But for us, it's another great set of data that we can look to validate some of the work that we're doing.
Because you can also probably track which routes people are taking, or?
No, it doesn't connect it down yet to that individual level. But as I was saying, we are seeing these technologies evolve very quickly. So the ones that we're using now are kind of like the 1990s model of a USB. So there are now versions of these beacons that work without, so they track off the IMAC address of the phone device rather than someone having to have the app. So Jeep in Melbourne use it very efficiently to use this particular technology to be able to track how long someone with a device spends in a car sales yard, and if they're spending less time there, then obviously the salespeople in that sales yard aren't engaging with visitors to the Jeep franchise, so maybe there's a need for training. But they can also see the order that they go through the different yards across Melbourne.
Great. Any questions from the audience for Chris? No? I think you've had a very clear presentation. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.